Hello my darlings and welcome back to my channel. For those of you that are new here, my name is Miranda and I am the Enchantress of Avalon. So as you can see by the title, today's video I will be discussing how the Sun and Venus can be worked with in conjunction in some really interesting ways, due in large part to my observations that a lot of solar fairy queens are also Celtic Venus, also embody the Celtic Venus archetype and the energy of the Celtic Venus. And given that the Celtic Venus is a primary energy that I work with, which I'm sure most people familiar with this channel will know, I thought this was a really interesting topic to delve into. And I actually delved into this topic recently in a Patreon exclusive blog post. It would have been not last Friday's, but the Friday before. So if you're a member of Patreon, you can read that blog post, or you could also sign up for Patreon to access the blog post. Other than that, before we dive into the topic, I do want to make some announcements. First off, I do want to announce, I already did write an entire blog post about this that would have been posted the day before this video goes live. So Sunday, this video goes live on a Monday, but I have made the choice to discontinue my line of herbal teas. I simply wasn't seeing enough people purchasing them, and it was not feasible for me to continue selling. I think it's a good choice in the long run because it also frees up my time and my energy to continue doing things in my business and my entrepreneurial endeavors that are working, focusing on my classes, my writing, being able to create videos like this for free for everyone, and of course my work on Patreon, all of which is working out a lot better for me. And I, of course, am still going to continue doing my tarot reading services, which my shop is always linked down in the description box below if you'd like to browse my metaphysical service offerings down there. So with that out of the way, let's dive into the topic at hand. So what do I mean by the Celtic Venus, first of all? If you haven't seen my previous videos where I discuss goddesses that are part of the Celtic Venus energy, or just the Celtic Venus more generally speaking, I will briefly touch upon it. The Celtic Venus is everything that we would assume aligns with the energy of the planet Venus and of the love goddesses. So this is fertility and nurturing and of course love, but not just romantic love and sexual love. It's the love you have between family members, love for children, love for parents, etc., etc., because Venus is the planet of love and governs love and pleasure and beauty. So these are goddesses that are Celtic goddesses, so they're fairy queens who embody this energy greatly. And there are many. It's very actually quite common. But particularly, we are going to be looking at how a lot of these fairy queens that embody the Celtic Venus also have solar associations, because sun goddesses are very much so a thing, especially in ancient cultures, and were very common in Celtic lands. I'm going to just name off some of them. I do have a little cheat sheet here that definitely embody this greatly. So obviously, we'll start with Ireland. In Ireland, the two most obvious examples of this would be Anya and her sister Grania, who are goddesses associated very much with the sun at different times of year. Anya is the better known of the two, and she's associated deeply with midsummer and the summer solstice energy in a high degree. And she is a love goddess. In fact, when you look up Celtic love goddesses, one of the first you would find is Anya, even though the Celts weren't necessarily viewing goddesses as just being goddess of one thing. They loved a great goddess because their goddesses, their fairy queens, were very complex. They are very complex. I work deeply with the Celtic Venus Faery Queens, and they're incredibly, incredibly complex. Then if we go over to Wales, which is the root of most of my studies, Rhiannon is the main goddess that is very much so solar. And interestingly, we see this thread and this through line of solar fairy queens later becoming associated with the lunar. So Anya is often tied to the moon in modern neo-paganism, and so is Rhiannon. I've actually written about Rhiannon and her lunar ties before, but it doesn't stop the fact that their earliest ties were very much solar. For instance, Anya's name means bright and shining, and very much so has that solar energy to the meaning of her name. And Rhiannon, she is literally described very vividly as being this golden veiled goddess who is coming forth from the other world, from the fairyland, to meet her future husband, Poosh. He first sees her in this, veil of gold. She's covered in gold, which is, yes, signifying her otherworldly status and signifying her royal status, but it also is signifying her status as a solar fairy queen. And then in less obvious terms, I'll say, we also have goddesses like Guinevere or Gwenhwyfar in her original Welsh form, and Iseult, and Blodeuwedd, and Olwen, who all can be seen to have solar ties through aspects of being flower brides. And that flower bride energy is that connection to the blossoming of flowers. In the case of Blodeuwedd and Olwen, literally connected to flowers on a very deep level. Blodeuwedd is made of flowers, and Olwen has flowers springing up with all of her steps. Her name literally meaning white footprint, for the white petaled flowers that grow from her footprints as she's walking. And in order for flowers to blossom, they need the sunlight. The sun is what allows plants to grow and to flourish. The sun seeds new life, which is why I see the sun as so connected to the Venusian energy, because Venus is fertility and sexuality, and again, this blossoming forth of new life. The sun is warming and allowing that to truly grow into being. So I think that's why we're seeing so many fairy queens who are definitely within that Celtic Venus realm, also having these historical links to solar energy. And it's really beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah, because all of these fairy queens that I've mentioned are quite obviously Venusian in nature. They are sexual goddesses. They are goddesses who become mothers in their tales. They are goddesses who make marriage to kings on behalf of the land as the land's made manifest. That very much empress energy, the flower bride making the marriage to the king. And that is what is cementing his right to rule his kingdom. We can't take the Venusian energy away from them. They're very obviously Venusian because they embody the Venusian elemental associations and the fertility, the beauty, the sexuality, and even the motherhood that comes from that sexuality. But they are also tied to the sun. They are either solar goddesses in a very literal level, being celebrated at midsummer and being celebrated as solar figures, aligned with horses, which often have solar ties, as well as sovereignty, which I consider sovereignty to be linked to Venus as well as to the sun. That's kind of an association I myself have because of these sovereignty bearing Celtic Venus figures being so Venusian in nature, but bestowing sovereignty on the kings whom they marry. So in many ways, when we're looking at fairy lore and Celtic lore and the Celtic Venus, there's almost this inextricable link with the sun. And if we broaden that out a little bit and think about how the sun is described and Venus is described, even in astronomy and astrology, we have them described as stars. They are both stars. The sun is the biggest, brightest, most profound star, the ultimate star, if you will. And Venus is the morning star and the evening star. And that is very telling and very profound. They are referred to as stars. They are referred to as planets in astrology as well. They hold more profound context than simply any star appearing in a constellation does, but these are planets referred to as stars. And Venus also is linked to the sun through heat. Venus is an incredibly hot planet. It's a very warm planet. So you're having that tie coming in as well. And I think that ancient peoples kind of saw this link, whether they were discussing it as being linked as such, but by having fairy queens who were holding Venusian energy, also holding solar energy and being either worshipped as such when we're looking at like Anya and Grania and Rhiannon, or being associated with the sun through the deep association with flowers, like with Blodeuwedd and Olwen, Guinevere and Isolde. It's there. And I think that it's just a very beautiful, very interesting concept, this link between Venus and the sun. And I just really wanted to share that today for the video because, as I said, it has been something I've been thinking about and even writing about recently. And then even last week on Tuesday, Suzanne O'Gara of Alchemy Babylon runs a Facebook group, the Witches Tea Society, and she does streams on Tuesdays. And she was talking about this literally days after I had posted a Patreon post about solar fairy queens and Venusian energy. She was talking about sun goddesses, and it felt really aligned. And I thought, okay, I really need to sit with this and ruminate with this more. I'd been thinking about it for a while, but so focused on preparing to launch my class and everything that I wasn't writing about it as much as I would have liked. So I started writing about it and now did a video about it. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please do like, comment, subscribe. And like I said, check out my website, whiterosebabylon.life. I also will have just posted this morning a blog post really about the same topic, but different words. If you're interested in reading it, not just listening to it, you can definitely check that out. I will try to link it once that blog post goes live. I'll pop it in the description box here as well. And I'll have other posts linked down there. I always do. And I'll link the post from Patreon down there. And my Patreon, my shop, and all of that good stuff. My Discord, everything's always linked in the description box if you want to explore more of my content. And if you're interested in a tarot reading, you can pop up over to my shop and look at those offerings. So I will see you very soon, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye now.